So Better Call Saul just ended, and it is an absolute masterpiece. If you've already watched Breaking Bad, go watch Better Call Saul, it is amazing. But if you haven't seen either, you're missing out. Do yourself a favor and go watch Breaking Bad. And that is the main reason why I'm making this video, because I want to convince as many people as possible to watch Breaking Bad. Considering that, I won't delve into spoilers, I will barely mention anything related to the story, outside of the basic premise, of course. And when it comes to my general thoughts about Breaking Bad, all I will say is that for my money, Breaking Bad is the single greatest show in TV history. It has some of the best writing, acting, storytelling, and cinematography I've ever seen. And it is also one of the only shows where the quality never dips. Because how many times have you watched a show that starts strong, but then suddenly something happens, it goes off the rails, and it ends up becoming extremely messy, disappointing, dull, bad, or if I'm being honest, just one of the most painful things I've ever seen. Game of Thrones. Anyways, Breaking Bad is not one of those shows. Yes, it starts strong. It is great from the very beginning. But it somehow still manages to get better and better every single season. And the first name that I have to mention is Vince Gilligan, who is the creator of Breaking Bad and one of the co-creators of Better Call Saul. What Vince Gilligan did in Breaking Bad is nothing short of exceptional. The Albuquerque, New Mexico that Vince Gilligan created for Breaking Bad is straight up one of the best settings in the history of entertainment. In Breaking Bad, Albuquerque is not just a backdrop, it is a living, breathing organism that is constantly changing and evolving. It is incredibly well fleshed out. And yes, even though the protagonist of the show is Walter White, his corner of Albuquerque is not the only one that is explored. We do learn a lot about the drug ecosystem of this version of Albuquerque. We learn a lot about the cooking and the distribution of drugs. But we also learn a lot about other different corners in this Albuquerque, New Mexico. These are different corners such as the one of the DEA, the Mexican cartels, the drug kingpins, the money laundering operations, the lawyers, the prisons, and many, many more. Albuquerque in Breaking Bad is extremely well fleshed out. There are so many different characters and so many different moving pieces that this city feels real. It feels lived on. And this is all thanks to Vince Gilligan and his amazing team of writers. Now, there is something else that I have to mention when it comes to the many great things that Vince Gilligan and his team did for Breaking Bad. And that is, of course, the character work. All the characters in Breaking Bad feel like real people. They don't feel like characters who act or talk in a certain way just because the script requires them to. Nah, they feel like living, breathing human beings with their own unique lives, goals, weaknesses, and voices. Honestly, the best way I could put it is if you told me today that all of the characters in Breaking Bad were actual real people who Vince Gilligan just followed for a couple of years in order to write this show, I would believe you. That is how well written these characters are. They feel like real people. And the main reason why the characters in Breaking Bad feel like real people is because of how human they are. Human beings are not absolute. No one is absolutely good or absolutely evil. We all do things that we are proud of and mistakes that we are ashamed of. And that is how the characters of Breaking Bad are. They are not good or evil. They are simple human beings with their own unique flaws, goals, and motivations. And that is something that Vince Gilligan really understands. A protagonist doesn't need to be a great human being in order for audiences to be invested in their story. We don't need to like them. We just need to understand them. And the characters of Breaking Bad are a great example of this. They act questionably and they do things that our society would deem evil. That said, we're still invested and we keep going along for the ride because we understand them. Instead of hating these characters for the terrible things they do, we pity them because we understand where they're coming from and we're able to see the tragic humanity behind their actions. Walter White does a bunch of horrible things throughout the show, but we never hate him. We know that the reason why he started making drugs was because he wanted to leave his family with something before he died of lung cancer. We understand him. We might not approve of his actions, but we do understand him. And that is exactly why it is so tragic to see Walter White fall deeper and deeper into this life of crime and deception. Because we know that deep on the inside, he just wanted to help his family, He made innumerable mistakes and ended up doing some horrible things. But the good inside of him never disappeared. And that is what makes him an empathetic, three-dimensional character. He is not a hero or a villain. He's a deeply flawed human. And that brings me to my next point of why you need to watch Breaking Bad. Because Breaking Bad has the single best character out of anything. Out of every book I've read, every movie I've watched, and every TV show I've seen, Walter White, also known as Heisenberg, is the best character I've ever seen.
I won.
And the two main reasons why I love Walter White so much is, without a doubt, the writing and the performance. When it comes to the writing, apart from everything that I've already mentioned about how great the character of Walter White is, there is something else that I need to mention, and that is that Walter White's character arc is the best I've ever seen. His transformation from an unpaid chemistry teacher with lung cancer into one of the most feared drug kingpins in the entirety of North America, that transformation is just absolutely perfect. That said, writing is only one half of a character, and the second half is without a doubt the performance. And Bryan Cranston's performance as Walter White is hands down one of the greatest performances of all time. If you ask me right now, what are the best lead performances I've ever seen, I would honestly say Al Pacino as Michael Corleone in The Godfather, Daniel Day-Lewis as Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood, Mads Mikkelsen as Lucas in The Hunt, and Bryan Cranston as Walter White in Breaking Bad. There is a reason why Bryan Cranston won 4 Outstanding Lead Actor Emmys for his role in Breaking Bad. By the way, 3 of those Emmys were consecutive in 2008, 2009, and 2010. That is absolutely incredible. But yeah, there is not much I can say about Walter White that someone hasn't said already. He is the danger. He is the one who knocks. He is the best character in entertainment history. He is Walter fucking White.
You're goddamn right.
Now, something that I do have to mention is that a hero is only as good as its villain. That said, I guess I can say that here because, as I've mentioned previously, in Breaking Bad, there is no such thing as heroes or villain. Everyone is just a human being who operates in a morally gray area. So, I guess I'll just phrase it by saying that a protagonist is only as good as its antagonist. And Giancarlo Esposito, as Gustavo Fring, is one of the best villains in entertainment history. Giancarlo Esposito has this insane ability to elevate any single line of dialogue and turn it into an absolute work of art. He plays the character of Gustavo Fring with such grace, meticulousness, and gravitas that he is always mesmerizing to watch. Honestly, one of my favorite things about this character is just how imposing and intimidating he is. Yes, he is cool and composed, but at any moment he can snap and murder someone. And that is exactly what makes this character work. It is that unpredictability which makes him so intimidating. An antagonist is only effective as long as they remain unpredictable. If a villain becomes predictable and you know exactly when he's gonna murder somebody and when he's not, then that villain failed. Audiences should never feel safe when villains are on screen, and that is exactly how you feel when you're watching a scene with Mr. Fring. And the best way I could put it is, if you ask me who are the greatest villains / antagonists in entertainment history, I would honestly say Heath Ledger as the Joker in The Dark Knight, Christoph Waltz as Colonel Hans Landa in Inglourious Basterds, and Giancarlo Esposito as Gustavo Fring in Breaking Bad. Now, as a little side note, I just wanted to say that I had the honor of meeting Giancarlo Esposito in 2020's Vancouver Fan Expo, and it was absolutely an amazing experience. You could literally see just how much he cared for every single one of us who were there to see him, and you could feel his passion towards acting and filmmaking. He complimented my Los Pollos Hermanos shirt, which, by the way, is the same shirt I'm wearing right now. We also talked about chicken farms for a while because, for those of you who don't know, my father owns a chicken farm back home in Colombia. And we also took a picture. And the funniest thing happened when we were taking the picture. Before taking the picture, he was nothing but smiles. But as soon as the photographer started counting down, his smile disappeared and he instantly transformed into Gustavo Fring. And as soon as the picture was taken, it was all back to normal and he was all smiling once again. So yeah, meeting Giancarlo Esposito was a great experience. I honestly believe he's one of the best actors working today, and I can't wait to see what he does next. I'm hearing that he might be joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which, by the way, Charles Xavier, Magneto, Doctor Doom, I honestly believe that any of those characters would be great for Giancarlo Esposito. Now, for the sake of brevity, that is all I'm gonna say. That said, there are many more things that I didn't even have the time to mention. For instance, the cinematography of Breaking Bad is some of the best cinematography I've ever seen. The use of symbols and motifs is incredibly inspired. All the secondary characters are absolutely amazing. And this show tackles some complex philosophical dilemmas in some incredibly thought-provoking ways. Concepts such as good and evil are constantly put into question throughout the show, and the idea of the ends justifying the means is frequently examined. So in conclusion, Breaking Bad is unlike anything I've ever seen. If I were to give it a scoring between 1 to 10, I would definitely, without the shadow of a doubt, give it a 10 out of 10, because it is an absolute masterpiece. Vince Gilligan has now made two of the best shows in television history, and you need to watch them.